Hey everyone. Well, that was quite a week. A lot of work. Um, Trust me, I feel it on my end as well. And I know you put a lot of energy into imagining your launch and your your book tour, and what you're going to do and how you're going to stay relevant. And isn't that a question, right? How to stay relevant? I feel that. I feel that question a lot, as I've gotten older and now as I'm, soon to retire from my tenured job. I've wondered how to stay relevant. And in the last 5 years, the last 7 years of my career, one of the ways I stayed relevant in my school was I resurrected a long defunct literature week. And I created a student literary contest, and I have every semester that we had a student reading from the contest. We had an invited guest lecturer, a reader, and then we had a faculty reading. And I think I started that in 2010, 2011, slowly, and then it got sort of solidly in place. And then almost 2 years ago now, I passed it on to a junior faculty member because I wanted it to continue, and I sort of mentored her, and that's another word we can talk about. I mentored her through the process, and now she's taken it over, and it still exists in 2019 moving into 2020. And in fact, they asked me to be the featured reader in the fall. So, it was a way of staying relevant, of how do you put yourself out there in a world that really doesn't care that much about who you are. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And the same is as being a writer. How do you stay interesting or engage? How do you engage other people when your maybe star is on the wane, or your time is up, or your book has come out and maybe nothing really happened, but what can you do? And I think of Alice Sebold, who wrote The Lovely Bones. Isn't that Alice? Oh my goodness. Well, her books came out and no one paid a lot of attention to them, but it was through word of mouth that eventually that book became a movie. And then her first novel, which was a memoir about being raped, became extremely popular because it brought up a topic no one had written about at the time. So, relevancy, something I think about all the time. Okay, we are now moving into our final paper. I've written a little bit about it in the written announcement that was posted earlier this morning. Bottom line, this is really crafted on the assignments that you've already done. So, for instance, this week a number of you didn't turn in your assignments, and it makes me sad to see that, because for a couple of reasons. One is that you need to have those assignments in place in order to put them into the paper. So my advice is to spend the early portion of this week finishing those assignments and turning them in late. And I will give you as many comments as I can, and then you can use those comments to recraft them and then place them into your paper. One thing I graded a number of late timetables, schedules. Remember to not place a 12-page, 6-page, or even 3-page timetable into your paper. It's very huge. It's very clunky. And so you want to find a way to present what you're going to do in writing, especially, or unless you really condense. The year long, you might be able to condense and put it in there. Or maybe it's, some of you just had so much in there, I just don't see how it can go into your paper. So go back to my notes and see what I said, and see how you can perhaps condense this or synthesize it or summarize it. Along the lines of the notes, I try not to take it personally, but a number of you haven't read what I've written to you. And those are the same things I'll say to you if they show up again in your final paper. So please go through and read what I said about the various components for the paper in terms of the assignments they were in. And I've given you critique, feedback about what you could do or not do. And do it or don't do it. But just know that that's kind of the same thing that's going to be in the rubric for the final paper. The other thing is, I know these I've already at 5 minutes, and actually this will be a short one. But if you could listen to the announcements, I'm trying to give you hints about what you can do for, like right now I just gave you a huge hint about the final paper, but about 9 of you are watching these, and I'm probably just preaching to the choir because the 9 of you are watching this right now. But I will write a little note, and hopefully folks will check into the announcements, because there's big hints about that final paper, which is really, again, a consolidation of all the work that you've done in this class plus your website. Lots of great ideas this week. One of them, Joseph brought up about mentorship, and he and I were kind of going back and forth in terms of what we were talking about. But being a mentor, and a number of you talked a little bit about this as well, to younger writers or people coming up, or asking and looking for a mentor. If you are just writing your first book, you could probably use a mentor because there's a lot ahead of you. And finding a mentor and supporting a writer in a sense who's already been there is still part of literary citizenship. So think about that idea as well. Okay, so late work, final paper, staying connected. Staying connected. If you disappear, please let me know where you are. Again, those of you who've disappeared might not be listening to this. But if you're going to be gone, if you're sick, let me know. And what's happening is that people are just reappearing a couple weeks down the road, 3 weeks down the road, and I don't know what's been going on with you, and I imagine that you're dropping or what have you. So connect with me, send me an email, etc. Okay, I'm signing off for this week. You have one thing to do. It's that final paper, but some of you have makeup work to do. So makeup work, final paper, due on Sunday. I look forward to it. I know it's going to be satisfying to put it all together, and it'll be a real plan that you can use in the real world when you're all done.